Well, hello. Good evening, everybody.
Hi.
It's Kim and Jeff with FEWL for the weekly Wednesday Facebook Live event. And tonight we're going to speak about the muscle hormone, which is testosterone. And that's a big topic. Tonight we're going to focus mostly on men, but testosterone is equally important for women, and we're going to do that next week. But it is called the muscle hormone. That's what we call it. And I think what most people might think of testosterone. But what you're going to learn tonight is muscle is a wee tiny part of testosterone. But as usual, we're going to take about 30 minutes at most, maybe 15 or 20 minutes of Kim and I passing the baton back and forth, and then we'll open up for questions. And in addition to that, as always, we have a giveaway. In fact, we have two, potentially, giveaways tonight. And the rules for the giveaways are, let us know you're here and ask a question at some point through the presentation, and then we will certainly send off to you your giveaway. So first giveaway, option number one, is a sweet new bottle of melatonin. That's our professional brand of melatonin that's made for us, medical grade. But we're not just going to give that to anybody. We only give that out to people who actually need it, because melatonin can be quite abused. So if you really want the melatonin, send us the question, Facebook Live here, and let us know that you understand it, and we'll connect with you and send you a bottle of melatonin. But the other is a random giveaway for anybody. It's a fantastic bottle of vitamin D, D3. So please ask us a question at some point, and we'll make sure that we get you our liquid D3. So that's the layout for this evening, as always, and I hope you enjoy the show, so to speak.
All right, let's talk about testosterone. Well, gosh, you know what, Jeff? Every day, literally, I hear commercials advertising solutions for low T, which means low testosterone, right? ED, which is erectile dysfunction, right? I actually did a little research and found that there are literally billions of dollars spent every year on prescription medications for low testosterone. So I did a little bit more research. Both of us actually started looking into this to see like what the heck is going on. What we found was that actually there is a study that shows that American men have seen their testosterone levels drastically decrease over the last 20 years. So we're really interested to look at why. Why is that the case? It's interesting when you look at some of the studies, they don't often give idea on why specifically that is, but we're pretty confident that we know why we're seeing such drastic decrease in testosterone. So we're going to talk about tonight about understanding where your testosterone levels are. If they're not optimal, we're going to talk about why they might not be optimal, which will then help us figure out what we need to do to get them more optimal. But also really importantly is to understand that it's not just one number. It's not just looking at testosterone, because all of your hormones, they're all woven together and they work in relationship to each other. So the ratios of one hormone to another is really a significant part of your overall health. So as we talk about testosterone, we're also going to go in today to talk a little bit more about cortisol, which we've touched on. We'll talk more about some other hormones, like cortisol, we just said cortisol, insulin, and then even how that's affected, how insulin affects testosterone, cortisol affects testosterone, and estrogen drastically impacts the level of testosterone in both men and women. So a big topic, and we're just gonna kind of chew off a tiny bit of it tonight. Let's start with,
how about the symptoms? If you have low testosterone as a man, women have this too, but as a man, sure, limp dick or erectile dysfunction, that's a big one. And as well, belly fat, depression, fatigue, low motivation. If you're a woman, it actually affects your bone health, so weak bone / osteoporosis. Definitely facial hair or thicker body hair related to testosterone. And as a woman as well, your blood count goes down. There may be a relation to fertility as well. I'm not quite sure about that one. So, but we'll park those ones for next week. But definitely a lot of symptoms that many men could be, and man boobs, definitely want to be aware of. And how do we manage some of those things through the appropriate ratios of testosterone?
Right, and testosterone is the hormone that makes a man and feel like a man and have that energy and have that drive and have that motivation. It's also important for women. When women's motivations start to drop, one of the things I think about is, what's our testosterone doing? Because it's a really important thing to help us feel like we have the energy, the drive, the capability to push through and do things that we want to get done. But for a man, it can be really devastating, and often we're told, you're just getting older. Right? It's normal for testosterone to decline as we age. So people really did buy into this idea that, it's just with age. I can't get an erection. With age, I just don't feel strong and I don't feel like a man, and my muscle tone is going and my memory is going and I have man boobs, and it's just because I'm getting older.
Right, that's become the new normal, unfortunately, which goes back to this study that Kim was speaking about from Journal of Endocrinology. Reality is we've been accepting it, all of these symptoms, as just normal part of aging and da-da-da-da-da. But now this is just a confirmation of what we already knew. Testosterone is an issue, but it's as Kim said, it's not just the amount, it's also the ratio. But there are some other things that are affecting it. And that's what we want to drive into right now. So what are the main things, Kim, that affect testosterone?
Well, if I could just go back to saying it's not age. Okay? Right. It's not age. And we know this. There's actually a really great study done in Australia that showed that healthy men maintained really high levels of testosterone even in their older years. So that really shows that this really strong correlation between chronic disease and low testosterone. And really what we're seeing is that low testosterone is not an effect of getting older. Low testosterone is a result of not being healthy. So we do have a pretty good idea of what are the things that are inhibiting testosterone. And again, it's not age. Okay, so men actually maintain their ability to be fertile and have babies and have sex into their very old age, right? So if your testosterone is low, it is not just because you're older. We want to look at what are the disruptors, all right? So let's see, there's so many. We can talk first of all about just the standard American diet, right?
Standard American diet.
So that actually composes a lot of different things that could be possibly interrupting your testosterone levels. So we can look at processed food in general, right? Processed food has the ability and does increase insulin. Okay, insulin is a hormone that helps you metabolize your food, break down the food molecules into glucose. Glucose is energy, you need it for fuel. Too much processed food raises the insulin levels. Insulin then is a fat storing hormone, right? It allows you to store more fat. And this then can affect your testosterone levels. So we want to make sure that you're not getting a lot of refined foods. And if you are, that could be one of the reasons that your testosterone is tanking. So part of the standard American diet is all that refined food. Another part is chemicals. Chemicals, especially from animal products. When we eat industrialized animals, we are getting the hormones and the antibiotics and the pesticides and the herbicides that they were exposed to, and it's very concentrated. So when we take that in and we consume that, those things disrupt our own hormones and our own chemical pathways, and that can also disrupt testosterone.
For sure. Those are called EDCs in the technical world. What does the EDC stand for again?
That is endocrine disrupting chemicals. Right?
That's right, exactly. In the past, in the mid-2000s, when the first connections were really being figured out about toxicity and body fat, these chemicals were often called obesogens, or basically body toxins. And the reality is now they're specific about EDCs because they are specific to your metabolic hormones, which is everything that we're speaking about right now.
Right. Right. So these chemicals are found in high concentration in our diet, but also in other things. And we'll discuss what those other things are as well. But back to the standard American diet, a lot of it is not just what you eat, but when you're eating. So again, going back to those hormones that affect testosterone, insulin is one of them, and some of the other hormones like leptin and ghrelin and other important metabolic hormones that affect your body weight are going to be affected. And when insulin goes up, testosterone goes down. So what we want to do is get the testosterone up, insulin down, so you have a better ratio. When insulin is balanced and testosterone is balanced, you have better muscle tone. When you have more muscle tone, you burn fat and you build more muscle. So it's this vicious cycle that we can get into when we're not eating a well-balanced diet, and when we're not eating enough of the right kind of foods at the right time. So timing of your daily food intake is really significantly going to affect your hormones. So the diet, stress.
Stress is a big one, because what happens with your chronically stressed is you raise your cortisol levels. And like anything else, it seems with testosterone, the higher your cortisol goes, the lower your testosterone goes. So if you bring your cortisol down, your testosterone is going to go up. But obviously, if you're doing things to bring your cortisol down, you're doing things in your lifestyle that are also affecting it. Because cortisol will go up with meal timing or skipping meals, that kind of thing. It'll go up with differences in sleep if you're getting irregular sleep. And it'll also go up if you're simply not actively managing some stress. Literally sitting down and breathing quietly for 5 minutes a day will help affect all of your stress responses and bring cortisol down. Same with getting outside. Just being outside brings cortisol down. Going for a walk doesn't have to be major exercise, but simply going for a walk outside for 20 minutes will bring your cholesterol down. And inversely, what happens is your testosterone will start to go up. These are just a couple simple things that can affect your stress levels and therefore your testosterone.
Right, and just to make a note that we will be giving you lots and lots of ideas on what you can do about low testosterone in the upcoming weeks. But today we just want to give you a sense of why your testosterone might be low. And I would bet that the majority of people are dealing with chronic stress, which is absolutely negatively affecting testosterone levels, both in men and women. But the stress is a big piece that if we don't address that lifestyle-wise, it doesn't matter what kind of supplements you take or what kind of diet you have, that stress kind of trumps everything. There's a lot of studies that are showing that negative correlation between stress and testosterone. So we really need to manage stress if we're going to fix this issue. Some of the other things that we want to talk about, let's go back to those endocrine disrupting chemicals. So it's not just our food source that we get these. We also get exposed to these in our water. There's a lot of these chemicals in our tap water, so it is really important that you avoid the tap water and then you get clean water, clean source of water. Also, it affects your the thyroid, and the thyroid and the cortisol go hand in hand. So again, when you disrupt one hormone, there could be a disruption in the other hormones. So staying away from the toxic water is really important. One thing.
Question.
Oh, sure.
What kind of stuff is in the water?
Oh, that's a really good question. So one of the biggest toxic things that a lot of people really think is a good thing because it's been promoted as a good thing is fluoride. So heavy metals like fluoride, there's other ones that you might know specifically, Jeff, and you can mention, but people generally know about fluoride, and I would like to be very clear with people that it is not a safe thing for your hormones, especially damaging to your thyroid. And the thyroid and the cortisol are so closely related that you can really see this downstream effect in all of your other hormones if you're continually exposed to fluoride. Other things that you're going to get in your tap water are medications that other people consumed, because it gets into our water supply because you're pooping out the residuals of the medications that you take. People put it down the toilet, they put it down the sink, and this stuff gets reabsorbed back into the world, it gets recycled, and you're drinking it. So you're medicated even if you're not taking prescription medications.
That's so true.
Right? Besides the heavy metals and those toxins that we get, what else is in the tap water, Jeff, that we should be avoiding?
It's like anything else. The water it collects everything, from pollution from vehicles to whatever else.
Right, pesticides.
It's ending up in your water
Anything
system.
that's in the air is going to be ending up in your water supply. So clean water is a really important thing to protect your hormones. What else? Oh, body care products. Right? Anything that you're putting on your skin gets right absorbed into your body, and most things that you purchase at regular stores are really toxic. So if you're putting cologne on and you're using these shampoos and hair gels and all kinds of even what you use to wash your clothes, all of those contain endocrine disrupting hormones. So being really mindful of everything that you put into your body and everything you put on your body is important, because those things can be a big disruptor for your testosterone levels.
Indeed. It's not all doom and gloom, though. There are ways, obviously, of removing much of this stuff and preventing harm and rebalancing your hormones. So check out some of our blogs, especially around toxicity and body, the detox programs and such.
Right.
But that might be a good place to step into as well. How do you figure out all this stuff?
How do you figure it out? Well, you guys have we've talked to you about the Dutch test, the dried urine, comprehensive urine test. And that is really the best way to find out what levels your testosterone is. Where are you at? Are you producing testosterone? Are you in a good range? And also, probably even more importantly, is the ratio of testosterone to estrogen, especially for this particular topic right now, because sometimes you're making enough testosterone, but the symptoms you're experiencing, you would assume that you have low testosterone because of the symptoms. But what it really is that your testosterone is being turned into estrogen. So you're making plenty of testosterone, but you're turning that testosterone through a process called aromatization into estrogen. And then what happens is we become estrogen dominant. We have more estrogen than we need, which affects the ability of the testosterone to do its magic in the body, both for men and women. So estrogen dominance is a really big problem. And one of the solutions is to detoxify, because often the aromatization process is happening and the estrogen dominance is happening because we're not able to unburden ourselves from these endocrine disrupting hormones, right? So using some tools to detoxify, that alone can reduce your estrogen dominance, boosting your testosterone. Really big deal. You mind if I share a story about my husband?
Please.
And he says it's okay to tell you this, so to share this with people. And I often tell people this story is that my husband got to a point in his life where he had so much chronic stress, and he's a vet, so really big stress and trauma from his career, and he was just tanked. He had no energy, no motivation, no drive, no erections. Really just totally tanked and depressed, right? Like no motivation, depressed, and this is from a very highly functional man to get to this place. He goes to his doctor assuming that he has low testosterone, right? Because of his symptoms. And the doctor looked at him and said, there's no way that your testosterone is too low. You have too much muscle. He's a very muscular guy.
He's a very muscular guy.
Yeah, so
he's an unbelievable GQ looking, amazing man.
Muscular guy. I'm very lucky.
Over 50 years old, but looks like he's 22.
So the doctor's looking at him going, no way, testosterone is not the problem here. What the problem was, after testing to find out, we found that he was making testosterone, but he was turning it all into estrogen. So we had to find a way to disrupt that process, right? So once we worked on the aromatization, and there's another side to this, which we can explain shortly. But once we worked on that piece, then things started to shift really quickly for him. So you can't just assume that it's low testosterone, because sometimes it's estrogen, not testosterone. But sometimes it is testosterone. So testing is the best way to figure out what's going on and look in your hormonal pathways, where is the disruption happening? And then we can really target that specific thing that's going on with you.
You know what, and I'm just looking at the time and such too, but if you check out our website, FEWL, go to the testimonials, and I have a little testimonial on there as well about the Dutch test. Similar story to Kim's husband. I have testosterone. I was making I was making enough. I was on the high end of normal. But I had higher estrogen, and it wasn't because I was converting it. It turned out that I wasn't able to actually download and get rid of the estrogen as well, because my detox pathways were compromised. Never would have figured that out had I not had availability to do the Dutch test. Super simple, super affordable. We love it, and it shows so many things.
Right. So one of the things that we're talking about with the disruption of testosterone and causing low testosterone is not being able to get rid of the hormone. So you have to actually kind of cleanse your body and methylate, or what's another word for phase 1 detox. You have to unburden your body and kind of transition these hormones so that they can then be recycled back and you can be in balance. And so for Jeff, his issue was his phase 1 detox and his liver was compromised. So we did the 8-day detox, right? And used some products as well to help unburden the estrogen from his system. Some people have a problem with the phase 2, which is more methylation. So having that test, again, really helps us to decide where is your pathway disrupted, and so we can target that specifically.
Do you want to show what a Dutch test looks like, or what a pathway might look like? Would that be useful? Yeah,
and it might be really kind of hard to see here, but this is a really complicated process. So I can maybe just walk you through kind of what happens here. And if you do the Dutch test, you get this great visual that shows what your numbers are, and it shows where in the pathway you might be disrupted. So we're going to start with, we call it the grandmother hormone, is called pregnenolone. Your body actually, we talked about this before, uses cholesterol. Cholesterol is the molecule that is used to make a ton of hormones in your body. And so cholesterol is used to make pregnenolone, and then pregnenolone either goes down the pathway of progesterone, or it's going to go into the pathway of DHEA, and then testosterone, and then to estrogens. So looking at the test allows us to see, are you low in DHEA, therefore you don't have the building blocks to make testosterone, and then therefore that's going to affect your estrogen and the other downstream hormones. Or is DHEA is okay, but testosterone's low, or DHEA is good, testosterone is good, oh, there's the estrogen down here, that's the problem. So it's really helpful to understand where in the pathway is there a blockage, because there's different support tools that we'll use based on where the pathway is disrupted.
And that's a really key point as well. It can be really confusing and even intimidating or daunting to see a Dutch test, unless you actually know how to interpret it or to explain what the interpretation is. And that's really what our invitation to you is because that's what we do. So we have this amazing test. You simply pee on some strips and you get all this information. And you can, again, see about it on our website under the hormone page on our website, FEWL but more importantly than, well, almost or just as importantly as that, now you know what you got. The next question is, what do you do with all that information? And I think that's a really good, I know that's a really big piece of what our expertise is, and as well with and I love what Kim says. It's not just about supplementation, because we do use certain supplements at certain times based on what your Dutch test is, and then we reassess, after a couple months. So it's not just any supplement. It's the right supplement or combination of supplements at this time to get you from this point to this point, and then we reassess. And maybe some of those supplements will change. Maybe you don't use any more, or maybe we add a different one to get you to the next sort of phase. But there's a whole milieu here that I think we're pretty happy about and pretty proud of, that we could work with you and move you to where you want to go, depending on where you started.
Yeah. So you're not wasting your time and you're not wasting your money. We're targeting specifically based on what we know. We're not guessing, right?
Exactly. And it's way, way nicer than going into a lab and getting blood taken out of your arm, which unfortunately, it not only hurts, it tends to be expensive, and it only tells you what you got right now. It doesn't tell you what's happening across the day. It doesn't tell you these ratios and all the rest of it.
And it only tells you your free hormone, not the metabolites of the hormone. So it really doesn't give you the whole picture. So if we have access to the whole picture and we can take advantage of that, then we can really get to the root cause. So,
indeed.
Right.
Anything else you want to talk about right now?
Gosh, I think we did a pretty good overview. We have a blog this week that has some more specifics and some resources that you can look at. So going to the blog is useful. And if you need some support, of course, you can give us a call, reach out to us, and we can connect with you personally and support you in this. This is a topic that we're going to continue. Next week, we'll be talking about women and testosterone. And then we're going to get more into what do you do about it, right? So we just today wanted to give you idea of how testosterone gets disrupted and how you end up with lower levels of testosterone, that you shouldn't have lower levels of testosterone as a man, even as you age, that buying into that is sad because you're really missing out on feeling great and having a really robust life even in your 80s. And so helping you understand that that's a myth, that you should be feeling great, that you should feel strong and alive, have motivation and muscle. And if you don't, that maybe we need to look at your testosterone, and then we'll come up with a strategy that fits your particular needs.
That's right. So one of the takeaways is testosterone is dropping in the population as chemical load in our environment is going up. And the other is testosterone is not really related to age, unlike what most people think. There are other things that are happening. And any questions, let us know, because we have a couple of giveaways if anybody has any questions.
Nobody's having a question about the melatonin.
No melatonin and no vitamin D.
So, well, I'm excited actually next week to talk about women and testosterone, because I think it's a really misunderstood hormone for women, and it's going to naturally drop as women age. So women will see a natural decline in estrogen, progesterone, and testosterone as our ovaries stop producing eggs and we go through menopause. But if we drop too drastically, then there's really uncomfortable symptoms. And so instead of just looking at estrogen and progesterone, which most people look at just those two hormones in menopause, I like to look at testosterone as well, and really understanding the concept of the ratio between those three hormones as we go through menopause really dictates what kind of symptoms you're going to have and how well you're going to manage the menopausal process. So stay tuned next week, because that's going to be a really informative and probably a lot that you didn't understand about the importance of testosterone in women.
Indeed. Well, thank you very much, everybody. As always, we very much appreciate your support. And as always, 100% of our business is word of mouth referrals, and we very much thank you and appreciate you all for sending us your referrals. We do our very best to take very good care of everybody and all the referrals. And we do have a referral program as well, which is a discount towards product or towards any service that you can apply to yourself, or you can apply to your referral, your friend or family member that you send our way. So there's more about that on the website, or just ring us up and ask us a question, and we can talk to you more about that.
All right, until next week.
Wonderful.
Thanks
so much. Happy March.